everyone. Welcome to the show. Listen, really glad to have you guys here. Today is Saturday, June 15th. I hope you guys are having a nice weekend, getting out in the sunshine. Remember to put on your sunscreen. You don't want to get a sunburn. Oh, them things hurt. You know, you lay in bed that night and you get a sunburn, you know, and you can't get cool. You feel hot all over, you know. You ever had that yucky feeling? I hate that. Oh, it's hard to sleep, you know, if you got a bad sunburn. Then it starts to peel and all that. Anyway, so wear your sunblock. Listen, here we got going on right now is China is undergoing a huge slowdown. Now, this isn't no small slowdown, and this is being directly caused by this trade war that's going on. Well, you know, China, they are going with this. They're flying with it. They're sticking with it, and they're not planning on relenting. In fact, quite the opposite. They're actually getting stubborn, and they're digging their heels in, the Chinese. But the Chinese are not a consumer-based economy. You know, they wanted to become a consumer-based economy awfully bad. And they were trying. They were working toward that goal, toward that end. But the United States is a consumer economy. And so the Chinese economy is very reliant upon the United States, as the United States being the consumer, where they sell an awful lot of their products abroad, you know. And suddenly, there's tariffs going on everything. Now they're talking about now $300 billion worth of tariffs, you know, and the Chinese are hardening their stance, but so is America. America's hardening their stance. I don't expect this trade war to end anytime soon, and it's not going to be pretty, the results to the Chinese economy. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we got the Fed talking dovish. This talk of talking dovish has got the market thinking to themselves, hey, you know what? We're going to get 3 rate hikes cut. There's 3 rate cuts this year from the Fed. It's got the market all excited. Well, the market has run out in advance. They didn't wait. They're not waiting. They ran out in advance, and they've basically they've run with it. They've priced it into the market now at this point. Now, what do you think's going to happen when they don't get a rate cut at this next FOMC meeting? When the Fed meets next time, what do you think's going to happen if they don't get that anticipated rate cut that they've already priced in? Well, if the first rate cut doesn't come, it's going to put in question the other 2 rate cuts. Immediately put them into question. Then they're going to question, they're going to say, hey, you know what? We didn't get that rate cut we were expecting. Are we going to get the other 2 even? Maybe we won't get any cuts. And the market is going to fall out of bed. But it's been primed and it's ready. It's ready to roll over anyway. You know, the market's hitting an inflection point right now where people just don't know what to do because they don't know if the market's going to go up or they don't know if the market's going to go down, and they're questioning the market right now. The market, when they don't get that rate hike, the market's going to roll over. It's probably not going to roll over in one particular day, but it's probably going to drop like 100 points one day and 200 points the next day, and then it'll climb 50 points, and then it'll drop 200 more, sort of a deal. Until it's dropped, I believe over the next few weeks, it's going to drop like 1,000 points. It's going to shed like 1,000 points. Then the very next FOMC meeting, you watch. Watch the Fed give the rate cut to make the market bounce back. And the market will bounce back. But it might not make it up to the highs we are now. It might only bounce back like halfway. The Fed's going to keep coming with these rate hikes. And I expect probably by the end of the year, or early in the next year, they'll have their 3 rate cuts. Did I say rate hikes? I meant rate cuts. They're going to go ahead with these rate cuts. But they're going to be forced into doing it. The market is going to force their hand into doing these rate cuts. And they're probably going to have 3 or 4 of them done. They're probably going to be getting down near 0% very quickly. They're going to be moving down towards 0%. But here's the key to all of this. It's not going to work. It's not enough. We're moving into this recession so fast, and we got so much forward momentum carrying us down that it's almost like it's the same thing. It's like if you're going on the highway, you know, and you're going along at like 100 miles an hour or 70 miles. Say 70 miles an hour. You're not supposed to go 100 miles an hour, by the way. But say you're going 70 miles an hour and you go to stop. You just can't stop on a dime. You're going to go a long ways before you finally come to a stop. And that's the way with this downward spiral of the economies of the earth right now. Right now, they've developed momentum already. And everything's moving down. Everything across the board right now is moving down. We're heading head first into this recession. These rate cuts are not going to cut it, and there's a reason why. It's because they want to increase consumer spending and get the consumer sentiment up and all this kind of stuff, you know, and get the consumers going and get the money starting to pour out. I'm going to tell you, every time you use your credit card, you've just created money into the system. You know? And that's how they really, bank lending and credit card borrowing and everything else. This is how the system has been running with credit expansion. That's called credit expansion. The problem is we pretty much hit the wall with this now, with credit expansion. We're going into a contraction, and the contraction is gaining momentum, and just a few rate hike cuts are not going to cut the mustard. And the reason why they're not going to cut the mustard is people are all tapped out. We've reached the end of this credit cycle. Debt is expanded to the point where people just can't take on any more debt. It doesn't matter to them that the interest rates fell back down to zero. They just can't afford to go in and take on any more debt at this point. So they can't expand the monetary system. There's only one bunch out there that can expand the monetary system now. The central banks. The regular banking system is losing the ability, through fractional reserve lending, to expand the monetary base at this point. The monetary base is going to start to contract. There's only one bank out there that can actually create money without doing it through loans. See, most of these banks out there, you know, how they create money, and the credit cards too, is it's all about loans. People borrow, and that borrowed money springs money into existence, and then the central bank doesn't have to do it. They can just sit back and go along for the ride and let the banks all do it, the individual banking system out there. But it's totally reliant upon the banking system being lending money and the people borrowing money on their credit cards. Right? If that dries up, and nobody's borrowing on their credit cards, and the banks are not lending anymore, then all of a sudden the whole thing falls back on the central bank because the monetary base starts to actually shrink. People start paying back their credit cards. Heaven forbid. And the banks, they're not getting any loans. Nobody's making any loans. Nobody's borrowing any money. And so the system starts to become a closed loop, with the central bank at the center of that loop. And then the central bank has to support everything and go into the money creation business. So, last time we had the crisis, the central bank went into the money creation business, right? But they did it in a way that was like, they call it sterilized. Basically, what it is they circulate the money within the banking structure. The only people that get it are people on Wall Street, or, you know, where the general economy suffers. Now the general economy's got suffered enough now down to the point where they're overextended, right? And they need the money too now at this point, because they're getting to the point where it's a depression for the standard ordinary people. They need money too. So now the central bank's going to have to do more than just put the money within this closed system, within the banking system and within Wall Street. They're going to have to actually take money now, and this is a novel thought for them. I mean, this goes beyond what they normally used to doing. But they're going to have to start putting the money not just into Wall Street, but into Main Street too. They're going to have to find new and novel approaches, and this is called helicopter money. We've been talking about it for quite a long time. But when the helicopter money hits, and believe me, it's coming. It's coming during this next recession. When the helicopter money hits, that's when you're going to see the real inflation start. Beyond anything that what we're used to. And it's going to start, it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be one of these things where it just clamps down immediately. You know, it's going to be one of these things that's slow and progressive. You know, this inflation. Also, the situation over there around the Strait of Hormuz bears a lot of watching. Heaven forbid, like we went for a couple weeks there with no troubles with the tankers, and then all of a sudden we got troubles with the tankers again. Heaven forbid we get more trouble with the tankers. You know, this could escalate this situation. We got other problems in the world. We got Ebola down in Africa. I heard today that the World Health Organization is not going to make it an international whatever, you know, when they say it's an international threat to the world. I heard today they're not going to. This could mean a couple things, but one of the things, I don't think they're going to get as much funding as they would if they made it into an international issue, you know. Then they get more funding and they'd be able to fight it quicker, better, and more effectively, you know. So I think that ultimately, I think they're going to have to in the future reassess the situation a few months from now, you know, because it doesn't seem to be going away. It seems to be the numbers are getting bigger every day, you know. And so we got that going on. The Brexit hasn't went away. The clock's been ticking. We're moving closer and closer to the Brexit deal coming back around again and creating a situation. The British economy is floundering. The Canadian economy is floundering. The Australian economy is floundering. The Chinese economy is floundering. The French economy is floundering. The Italian economy is in the abyss. It's abysmal. You know, the German economy is floundering. They're all starting to roll over to recession. The United States economy is still perking along a little bit. Just a little bit. We got service sector and stuff like that. You know, and consumers, still quite a bit of consumption with consumers, even though retail is taking an awful hit. There's still consumption out there in America. America still has a low jobless rate, even though the numbers are fudged. They say that the jobless rate is what is it? Extremely low. It's just, I don't even look at it. It's so ridiculously low. But that's a fudged number because the workforce participation, they're just not. There are people out there give up looking for work and they're not being counted. You know. And I think that's about 4% or something, 5% or something, you know. So that if you added that on, suddenly your jobless rate doesn't look so good. Looks kind of weak, you know. But anyway, that's one of the big recession indicators. Is when that jobless number gets really low, it's always just before the next recession. It's one of the best indicators of all. It's just as good an indicator as the yield curve inversion, which we have right now in spades. It's getting worse and worse by the day, the yield curve inversion. You know, all the indicators are pointing toward a recession coming around. And I don't think that they can hold this recession off until the election cycle is completed. So I think we're going to be smack dab in it. In a really, really bad recession. Then we got Deutsche Bank. You know? And Deutsche Bank has a huge derivatives book. It's something like $45 trillion derivatives book. You know? But these derivatives... speaking about the derivatives market. There's something coming along out there right now that when implemented... could blow up the derivatives market. Of course, I don't consider it a huge threat just yet to the derivatives market, but I can see where it could become a huge threat to the derivatives market, because an awful lot of money could move out of the derivatives market and move into a new market. And this could happen extremely fast. It could happen within 6 months. There's something connected to Bitcoin called backed, you know? And basically, money's going to move into this. I'm talking about voluminous amounts of money is going to move into this once they get it up and running. I think they're going to run some sort of a test or something coming right up. That's what I've been hearing through the grapevine today, you know, of this system, this backed system. And it's all about cryptocurrencies, you know, Bitcoin and Litecoin and all these different cryptocurrencies, you know. They're a money sponge, a liquidity sponge is what they are. And there's no end to the amount of money that they could suck up. They're such a potent liquidity sponge, and this can affect the derivatives market very adversely, you know. Probably as much, if not more, than Deutsche Bank going down. But, you know, Deutsche Bank's probably going to go down soon. I mean, they've been keeping their head above water longer than I thought. You know, it seems like every day I go to watch Deutsche Bank, and they're right on rock bottom, ready to go down, but they just kind of stay in there for a little while. I don't know what's holding them. You know, they're kind of like a kid who's wiggling his tooth. You know, and you know, his tooth's gonna fall out. You ever seen a kid wiggling his tooth? And he's got it right down till there's nothing but the thread holding it, nothing practically holding it. In fact, you know, I've seen kids wiggle their teeth when they're young like that, to the point where the tooth just basically falls out on its own. You know? But anyway, that's like Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank's like a tooth that's just got one thread left holding it. It's ready to go. It could go any minute, you know? And boy, wouldn't that be a shock to the world's financial system. Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll catch you guys on Monday, unless it's a holiday. You know, I always have to watch out for these holidays, you know, because here in Canada we have a whole bunch of Monday holidays. Down in the United States they have a whole bunch of Monday holidays. Seems like they always fall on a Monday, you know. It doesn't matter if the holiday's on a Friday or whatever. They always take the Monday off, and they come at me from nowhere, these Monday holidays, you know. And I have to keep my eye on the calendar, you know, to try to figure out when we're going to have one. But every once in a while they take me by surprise anyway, you know. Listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.